it's just so nice seeing that that there are still new TCGs that can come up from the Kickstarter level and just and build into a community like this where people are willing to fly out, meet up, and play. It's nice.
We all came together and just did something. Nobody had to be here, and it wouldn't have been exactly as it was if anyone wasn't there.
I think it's really important to understand that people are powerful agents and capable of doing things. And if you're doing something that people are excited about and you do it publicly and are good at asking for help, you'll get the help and make the thing happen.
It's been overwhelming, man. I'm still processing all of it, obviously. It just happened last night.
So this is a story about Sorcery Con. It's a card game convention that is dedicated to the Sorcery TCG. A game that, by all conventional standards, is doing everything wrong. But the question they're answering is, what if, instead of doing all the rest of it, we spent all of our energy, all of our passion, all of our focus on making the most incredible product that we can? And in response, we're here in Seattle, so I guess it worked. Thanks, man.
Games used to be designed in a way where players, you weren't worried about balance as much as the fun experience of playing the game, the simulationist or immersive experience of playing the game, and Sorcery has that design philosophy as well. And that's something magical. You're still able to play make-believe as an adult when you have a game like that.
All your power chips are on
Every time they're at a decision point, they shoot for flavor, and I think that's made the game really fun. They haven't worried too much about what will the tournament player do. They're just those guys will figure it out.
Gracious, okay.
I mean, we were over there, and I just was like, I've won one game. I'm riding that high, and I'm just playing cool stuff. And no matter if we lose, where they chain lightning all the way down, I was like, this is amazing.
You're like, I had a giant that grappled through 4 lands, somehow swerving around at night. Visualizing that is really cool too.
I think that when Eric's Curious is looking at what's going on, I think it's shaping their decision making and seeing that their community can self-organize. I think energizes them.
The company is taking a very hands-off approach where they are trying to support whatever the community wants out of it. And that is, it feels like to me, core design philosophy for Sorcery. They want the game to be whatever the players want to do with it. I got to admit, at first I wasn't totally sold about the game. The whole grid layout thing seemed awkward to me. I'm like, it seems like it's trying to lean too hard on the board gamey thing. I'm willing to admit now I was entirely wrong.
Oh, yes. I think one of my staff was like, you should check this game out. And I played it, it was awesome. And then I basically took the next month off of work just to play nonstop. And then I started looking for people to play with, and fortunately, Seattle has a pretty nice community, so it's been easy to find people to play with.
There was a community member, his Discord handle is Christo, who he was organizing some events.
I found Sorcery probably through just a number of TCG groups that were kind of talking, about all the indie TCGs, but I kind of realized very quickly this game was, that this was the one that was for me. I backed the Kickstarter, got lucky, got backed at the collector tier level, so was able to get quite a few boxes, got one of the original pieces of art, I browsed. As a result of that, I was able to share that with the community here. So when I started organizing play, was handing out a bunch of alpha packs.
He started running drafts where he was using his product.
I would be like, I want to play, but I only have the pre-cons. And Krista was like, I have extra pre-cons. Like, it's fine, just come play.
Felt like there was a bunch of little pockets of like 4 or 5 people, 3 to 5 people who were like, one person would hear about this gathering and drag their friends along, and now there's like, 4 more people showing up weekly for these events.
David started hosting some games at local bars. There's a Vintage Magic group here that had a bar that they kind of met up with on a weekly basis, and David and I met up with them one week, and he kind of just continued, hosting sorcery nights at that establishment, and continues to do so.
Never let them get more than 2 bolts out. I was getting a lot of sorcery in, and it got to be a little bit too much once I had to also plan a sorcery convention. All right, I see 8 people are checked in. We have a 50-minute round. Please complete your games before the timer stops.
Maybe like 15 years ago, I was like, I don't understand why Magic just has Grand Prix where people compete. Like, why don't they have Magic conventions? Right? Like, there are all these people who love to cosplay. There are enough people who have like either worked at our R&D and or are there now and are like talk really well. A friend of mine on the Pro Tour was like, "Well, Alex, you can just organize it." And at the time, I was like in my late 20s, I was like, I don't know, that seems like a lot of work, and like, I don't know, maybe I need a lot of permission from people and like support from Wizards. And they're like, "No, you can just do it," and I didn't, which is part of why I organized Sorcery Con. Beta was just coming out, and I was just like, can we organize a beta draft? And the local stores didn't seem that interested. They didn't have product. They didn't really know about sorcery. Eventually we found the one store where they'd order product, and we had a beta event, and it was great. We played sealed, we drafted. Everyone was really happy to meet other players. It was 16 people was the biggest sorcery event anyone had been to.
We were at one of those local LGSs where it's like game store, but also a restaurant is attached to it. So we're like, hey, you want to grab some dinner? And me, him, and one of the other locals went and sat around, had some meal, had some drinks. We were talking about it. Alex was like, hey, I want to run a convention. I want to do this.
They're like, what are you thinking? I was like, what if we had it at a hotel, and what if we got 50 people? And they're like, that sounds impossible. They're like, when are you thinking of doing this? I'm like, February. They're like, that's only 4 months. You can't do anything in 4 months. I was like, nah, I think we can do this. People were like, I can help, and started volunteering a little bit. And then David just kept on volunteering consistently, and he's super competent, super friendly, and I think his skills complement mine.
I will leave the box with you. Obviously, everyone gets 3 packs for the draft.
I started jumping in on the Discord, and I was like, hey, what can I do about this? I can come up with this stuff. I can do this thing. Let's make this happen, man.
He just kept on stepping up, and eventually I was like, you are my co-chair, and he's like, okay.
And he and I both just kind of started pushing one another to do things to make it actually real.
Yeah, we know each other less than a year. We met on Discord, and then we met playing sorcery. We kept meeting in the finals of every draft we were in or sealed pool we were in.
Going into it, we're like, if we can, trick a few people around here into coming and hanging out for a weekend, we'll be golden. If we had known then what we know now.
I was sitting there, and then David mentioned something about Sorcery Con and said, yeah, that's pretty cool. I want to sign up.
I felt this was going to be kind of historic, and that to be here in Seattle and not go would be really a sad thing.
I went to Sealed, and David Floating Skull was there, and he just mentioned it in passing, and my friend overheard, and then we talked, and then he explained it, and then we signed up.
They had such low expectations for it. They figured they might be able to get 50 people in, and then they raised it to 70 something.
I was watching it, and 30 people signed up in one day, and I signed up, and I think it sold out before Christmas.
And then before you know it, they had a waiting list of, it surpassed even the amount of tickets that were sold.
there were people like in all the other Discords like, I got my tickets. It's just like the hype. People started to realize it was going to sell out, and everyone just like jumped on it.
And I think we have a waiting list of like 90 people who want tickets.
And I was like, I am not ready for this.
I'm actually volunteering today because I bought a tournament ticket and I wanted someone else to have the opportunity to play because I was like, people are like flying in here. I was like, that's bananas.
The initial support, like those folks who, you know, turned in their tickets so that we could get them to the wait list so that they could volunteer for the con. Yeah, there's been nothing but excitement and enthusiasm from the local players this whole time. And that has really like helped keep us going.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you guys.
I'm excited to have the most number of sorcery players in the same room ever. And I just kind of feed off of the excitement of the other players. Like, this is like, for me, it's a little bit like throwing a party or like, you know, a love letter to the community.
What are you talking about most worried about? Pass around and go to ground chunk for your table. It's the whole thing. I mean, it's, I realized a couple of weeks ago, like, this is about like planning a good-sized wedding. Like, this is that same amount of work.
When we got there on Friday and started setting up, we said con opens at 10, but like you can probably get in a space before then. I was setting stuff up, people were already playing. 10 o'clock on Friday morning. People were still playing at 5 a.m. on Monday after the con was over.
It's amazing. This is what sorcery should be.
We showed up on Friday, and we didn't make it in time for the draft, but we made it in time for a multiplayer game. So we got the multiplayer in, and then the next day we did the constructed tournament. And then after the constructed tournament, I got to participate in a draft, and then today was a sealed format. So I kind of checked the box of all the different like formats that I got to play.
I also enjoyed, I guess I should say, we played some 4-player matches. So 4-player is really what I love.
You do it on the end of every turn. And yesterday, we played in the tournament, drafted immediately afterward, and then immediately after that did another draft. We were drafting until like 12:45 in the morning.
Everyone's doing little things within the con, like little drafts and little poppers tournaments that we're just doing amongst people you meet.
We've done some of like the fan events, like we did some drafts that some like other people here have set up.
That's really the treat, is like most of the time, even if you're playing with friends, there's like a level of interest gap, and like everybody here is on 11. So it's like, you want to do another game? It's like, absolutely. I was waiting for you to ask me.
You go to any table and you can find someone to play with.
Yeah, I saw your name tag.
You see a lot of people, being very friendly, kind of teaching each other. So that's been very great here, seeing the camaraderie with everybody.
There's a lot of helpfulness, a lot of understanding.
I liked the way they did it today. We were able to make changes to our deck and stuff. And my opponent was a bit down on his deck, but we worked on his deck together, and he ended up winning out and then making the top 8.
I've seen a lot of card games try and launch. Almost all of them had like $1 million competitive tournaments. It brought lots of really spiky players. The average player like never had a chance.
Oh my gosh. Well, before coming here, I had 5 games under my belt.
Amazing.
And I had an Alpha Precon box, and some people in the community gave me some ordinaries. And I was like, I'm just gonna put them together. And I went 0-6 yesterday on Spark Mage, but I had a blast.
So like this deck went 4-2, basically one box with a couple peppered exceptionals from my man over there.
I was like, remember my first game there, I like didn't understand how casting spells worked or like where I could do that. And I got a takesy backsy like 3 times, and I've like never had that. In a competitive environment, you just don't see that.
I mean, everyone is just so happy to be playing with other people and tend to be around so many others.
It's just like another thing to connect people about.
Yeah.
You know, if you're into sports or games. But like, I think when you get multiple overlaps, then it's like you're friends.
I have not seen a reaction to like this at all. The other games will come out, they'll be okay, but people don't come up and tell me it's a wonderful game and thank you for working on it.
Just seeing like how grateful or delighted people are really brings me a lot of joy.
Every single time someone came up to me and was like thankful for the work that we put in to make this con happen, like it wasn't one moment, it just kept happening the entire weekend. It was overwhelming.
You know, this is our prototype, and I think it's going pretty well, but we definitely want to like keep organizing these, and other organizers from around the country have started like reaching out, and they're like, I have this great site, you know, like, can you teach us how to do a thing?
This is the first big event like this, but there's so many more that happening this year around the world, and a lot in the US and in Australia, and probably some I don't know about. And I mean, that's great.
I hope for big things for Sorcery in the future. More events like this where players and fans can come together and create their own thing with all the support from Eric's Curiosa.
Hast mich völlig überrannt.
We are live with the top 8.
Absolutely amazing.
Nothing worth doing is easy, right? Anything that is going to be important or meaningful takes work to do, and you have to be willing to accept that. And there was a lot of work that went into this. Both Alex and I spent a lot of time and effort on making this con happen, but it was work done out of passion, and that is not work in my mind. That's fun.
For anyone who's interested in starting out a community, I think that you have to be okay with that it's not always going to be, you know, a popular day on any particular week. You know, there are days where only 2 people showed up, and mostly it's David. You know, David always coming and showing up, and you know, you just have to be patient and just kind of let things build. And over time, somebody else will join who will, you know, can't make it on the day that you want, but they have their own day that they're going to organize, and you start having multiple days per week where there's an event, and stuff like that will just slowly happen.
If Krista wouldn't have like posted in our older play group and been like, hey, is anyone interested in this? Even though the stores weren't carrying it, he was doing it all by himself. Like, we might not have this today.
Met some folks here who are kind of closer to me, and probably going to get in touch with them we were talking about like a early morning coffee and sorcery kind of Sunday sort of thing. I'm like, that's perfect.
Do it. I want to see more conventions. I want to see like more people playing, and just do it.